A warm welcome to the news at this hour on NTA International. I am Elizabeth Omori. Now let's look at our headlines. World leaders converse equitable access to vaccine to curtail present and future pandemics. President Muhammadu Buhari meets security chiefs, orders them to end insecurity in the country. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo advocates need for Nigerians to pay greater attention to the unity of the country. Thank you so much for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the nation's armed forces and other security services to spare no efforts at bringing to an end the nefarious activities of bandits and kidnappers, undermining national security and stability. He said those collaborating with criminal elements to sabotage government efforts at securing the country must also be fished out and dealt with decisively. This was at an emergency meeting he convened with the service chiefs and heads of other security and intelligence communities on the state of insecurity in the country. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The emergency meeting with the service chiefs and heads of other security agencies was summoned by President Muhammadu Buhari in response to the worrisome challenges of security in parts of the country. He described as unacceptable the prevailing situation where bandits and kidnappers continue to have a field day, dictating the pace and setting the tone in the fight against crime and criminality. The National Security Advisor, Babagana Munguno, told newsmen that the president did not mince words in giving marching orders to the security chiefs.
Mr. President has made it very, very clear to both the intelligence and operational elements that their first assignment will be to identify the leaders of these bandits and kidnappers and take them out in order to restore confidence in those areas.
President Buhari was also unequivocal in his message to those collaborating with criminal elements to sabotage the government and destabilize the polity for reasons best known to them.
This is the directive from the president. I am to send a warning to those people who are behaving in a manner that portends a lot of danger to innocent lives. Those people who think they have some kind of authority, who are engaging in all kinds of hocus pocus, in all kinds of jiggery-pokery or skullduggery, those people will be brought down to their knees. It is extremely important for these people. I'm sending out a message to them. Anybody who thinks he can continue to pull whatever resources he has at his disposal to frustrate the efforts of the central government in bringing about peace and security will have himself to blame.
During the meeting, comprehensive reports submitted by the Chief of Defense Staff and the service chiefs were analyzed with the assurance by the President that critical areas of need will be addressed.
Mr. President is very eager and anxious to see what we're doing, and I'm sure that you will attest to the fact that the heightening operational engagement has yielded positive results. Generally, you find that the situation, when it's getting to the end, it appears that the heat is more, and not only the heat is more before it begins to get cool. We're on course.
The meeting noted with satisfaction the operational visits by the new service chiefs to the theater of operations to boost the morale of their troops. From the State House,
President Muhammadu Buhari has left Abuja for London, the British capital. State House correspondent Adamu Samba reports that while in the UK, the president is expected to undergo a routine medical checkup. He was seen off at the airport by the Minister of FCT, Mohammed Musa Bello, Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu, Director General of the Department of State Services Yusuf Magaji Bichi, and other senior government officials. Throwing more light on the President's medical trip, Presidential spokesperson Femi Additional and Garba Shehu reassure Nigerians that there's nothing to worry about.
Can say he is 100% healthy. If there's anybody like that, he should stand up to be counted. Somebody who says, I don't need checkup, I don't need anybody to look at my health, I am perfect from head to toe. That person should then stand up to be counted. So if our president at 78 is going for medical checks, I think there's nothing out of the ordinary in that. You know that since the president came back in August 2017 from his medical vacation then, his health has held on very well. Between that 2017 and now, maybe he went out 2 or 3 times. All through last year, it's doubtful whether he went out. So if it is time to do it now, then it's time to do it.
But there's nothing to worry about?
No, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing to worry about.
The president is looking at the window of opportunity that has opened with the Easter holiday. It's a much relaxed period for everyone. Good Friday, Easter Monday, national holiday. So then, using that period to do his regular medical checkup. This is something he has done for so many years, even before he came to office. Every year he had appointment with his doctors and he went there to do it. The only anomaly this time around was that COVID prevented this kind of trip throughout 2020. So he has lost some period. The last time he was there, more than 1.5 years back. But so he's using that opportunity to do what is regular in his own life. There is nothing like urgency or medical emergency or any new ailment of any sort. He's just fine and he's doing well.
President Muhammadu Buhari is due back in the country in the second week of next month. Talking health now, leaders of 23 countries in the World Health Organization are poised to ensure universal and equitable access to vaccines, medicines and diagnostics for present and future pandemics. This was one of the treaties agreed upon by the global key players at a meeting in Geneva. Adebola Brooksland Sunday reports.
The treaty was floated by the chairman of European Union leaders, Charles Michel, at a G20 summit last November. The treaty got the formal backing of the leaders of Fiji, Portugal, Britain, Rwanda, Kenya, France, Germany, South Africa, among other countries, and the World Health Organization.
State party will need to ratify it at the national level. And during this ratification process, we hope that the ratification process will create a mechanism and a platform for the whole government to come together to discuss about the future of preparedness and response to health crisis.
They said the main goal of such a treaty would be to strengthen the world's resilience to future pandemics through better alert system and personal protective equipment.
There is a problem in sharing information, so it can address that in sharing data. And then there is a problem in sharing the pathogen, and that could be addressed through the treaty. And there is a problem in sharing technology, or like vaccines. We are now confronted with vaccine equity. And this could also be addressed in the treaty.
The IHR in itself is a piece of legislation. It is without meaning unless countries are fully committed to its implementation. Such a treaty would provide that impetus. It will provide that political framework in which we in public health can do our work much more effectively.
The key players agreed that the health of humans, animals, and the planet are all connected and should lead to shared responsibility, transparency, and cooperation globally. They said the pandemic had thrived among inequalities in society and brought out the best and worst of humanity. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
And out to the foreign scene, Italian government to introduce a mandatory 5-day quarantine for EU travelers. Just as Tanzanian Parliament confirms Finance Minister as Vice President. Let's now join Uche Ugochukwu for details on global updates.
South Sudan has postponed the launch of its COVID-19 vaccination campaign, which was announced last week by the Health Ministry. Government official John Rumunu said the vaccination exercise was postponed due to logistics. Figures from England's Office for National Statistics show deaths from COVID-19 fall to the lowest level since October 2020. It says more than 50% of the people living in the UK have COVID-19 antibodies from either past infection or vaccination. The Italian government is to introduce a mandatory 5-day quarantine for EU travelers amid a third wave of infections in a number of countries. The decision comes as new rules requiring all air passengers to Germany to provide a negative coronavirus test come into effect. Meanwhile, the global death toll from coronavirus has passed 2.8 million. Out of the more than 128.4 million confirmed cases, Nigeria's total infections figure now stands at 162,641 after recording 48 new cases Monday. To other news now, the Tanzanian parliament has confirmed the appointment of Finance Minister Philip Mpango as the country's vice president. Mpango fills in the chair of vice presidency that became vacant after President Samia Suluhu Hassan became president following the death of John Magufuli on 17th March. And China has passed sweeping changes to Hong Kong's electoral rules, which will tighten its control over the city. Prospective members of parliament will first be vetted by a pro-Beijing committee to ensure their loyalty to the mainland, as the number of directly elected seats in parliament are cut almost by half. This aims to ensure only patriotic figures run for positions of power. That's the global update. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
Many thanks, Uche. Administration of COVID-19 vaccine has continued across the country, with frontline workers, the elderly and leaders taking the first jabs as the country joins the world to fight the pandemic.
That's the ambience inside a hall designated for the vaccination of NTA staff against COVID-19. Being part of the frontline workers, staff of the Nigerian Television Authority took turns to take forced administration of the jab as fight against the pandemic through vaccines and non-pharmaceutical measures continue. Salwal Khalil Ibrahim is an active social media user and has read a lot of theories on the effectiveness of the vaccine. However, the feeds from the social media is not compelling enough to influence her from taking the jab.
If you go watch the media, social media space, of course you'll be scared about the vaccine. But I don't think there will be any side effect. I am confident, in this, and I'm sure nothing will happen. I've been looking forward to this. So I'm more excited about it than, scared.
19 is real. I advise everyone to take the jab. The vaccine is safe.
If people try to avoid it or are skeptical about it because of what some religious or political leaders tell them, I don't know what to make of it, because it's better to, keep safe than take the risk.
The vaccine administrators allay fears as regards safety and efficacy of the vaccine.
When this vaccine came into Nigeria, NAFDAC took samples from all the batches and certified it fit before these vaccines were deployed to be used on Nigerians. So I can assure Nigerians that this vaccine is safe and effective for use.
Despite the vaccine, people are expected to adhere to all COVID-19 protocols, as the first shot only confers 65% to 70% immunity, while second shot confers about 95% immunity.
President of the Senate, Hamid Lawan, says the National Assembly will not renege in its legislative interventions towards ensuring best and improved training for health workers in Nigeria. He was speaking at a public hearing on 3 medical institutions establishment bills. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
6 days after the Senate adjourned for Easter break, the various committee rooms have been activity-packed At this conference room, the Senate Committee on Health convened a public hearing on three establishment bills.
Today, and especially on COVID-19, every nation unto itself. What that means is self-reliance.
The Federal Orthopedic Hospital, Kuta, and National University of Health and Medical Sciences, Suleja establishment bills, sponsored by Senator Sani Musa, received goodwill.
Again, about 70% of the workforce of the Federal Capital Territory are residing in Suleja and environs. I don't see why Suleja till today has not benefited a single tertiary, a single institution of the federal government.
So we hope, by special grace of God, that these two bills will give it a total accelerated approval. But it is not just going to serve the people of Niger State alone. It's also going to serve the people of the federal capital.
The Federal University of Health and Medical Sciences Abeokuta Ogun State Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Ibikule Amosun, was also welcomed.
There is no federal government-owned University of Medicine in Ogun State. Let me reiterate that the committee will continue to enact laws, especially health laws, to meet the health demands of the citizenry.
In the last 2 days, the Senate Committee on Health has convened public hearing on 5 medical institutions establishment bills. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Federal government proposes new policy for dairy production. Details of these and other reports when we return. To stay with us.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Intel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit intel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Intel. Live more.
Thanks for staying with us. Now to dairy production. The federal government is evolving a new policy on dairy and milk production in the country to address the livestock subsector of the economy. Musa Babali reports that the government is engaging key players in the milk and dairy production in the draft of the policy.
A survey conducted by the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that the country is consuming milk and other dairy products worth more than $1.8 billion annually. This includes the 1.2 million tons of milk the citizens consume yearly. 90% of the milk, including the dairy products, are imported.
The country's estimated annual production stands at 672 million liters of milk, as against an annual demand of 1.6 million liters.
And that has been a source of concern to the government. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Muhammad Sabananono, is of the view that developing a new policy on milk and dairy products could be a solution.
We have recently secured about 5,000 hectares for a private company to develop commercial pastures. And there are quite a number of this happening in Kaduna, Kano, and other areas. We need to address this and also consolidate so that we can improve our policy architecture on the development of livestock in this country.
We are deeply interested in seeing the emergence of a vibrant private sector-driven dairy sector in Nigeria, where we can save as much as the $1.8 billion we spend importing milk and then be able to turn that into other useful things that we can do in our economy.
The new policy is expected to examine why the cows in Nigeria are producing the lowest volume of milk, with an average cow producing less than 1 liter daily. It is also to identify solutions to migration and conflicts over grazing areas and water drinking points. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
And to sustain the conversation on the proposed policy for dairy products, I have with me in the studio Mrs. Winnie Lai Sholari, Acting Director, Animal Husbandry Services and fellow Nigerian Institute of Animal Science. Mrs. Sholari, it's nice to have you in our studio.
Thank you very much and good evening.
Good evening. Now, the ministry is looking at formulating a new policy on milk. Do we have an existing policy?
No, we don't have existing policy on milk or dairy policy for that matter.
Okay.
We have policies on agriculture generally, addressing very many aspects, but one targeted at dairy and looking at it and providing direction for that sector, we don't have any. We have been talking about it, and we are just walking the talk now.
Okay, now we're walking the talk. Now, do we have the cows that will produce enough milk that will meet the country's demand?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Currently, we have about 20 million cattle, and if we have 11 to 12% of that producing milk, even as the current productivity we have for the cows, will have enough. But what we are not doing is harnessing this and having a direction on how to collect, how to process, and how to distribute. Okay. And so, yes, we do have, and even the figure 20 million, you know, it's an estimate because our last livestock census was in 1992. Okay. And so it's an estimate. But Nigeria currently is the largest, has the largest number of cattle in West Africa.
Okay. All right. I would like to ask you this question. Are we taking a look at goats, production of dairy from goats?
We are looking at that. But what we are talking about is cattle now. That will tell you that we have enough livestock to produce milk. We have about 76 million goats, and we have not even scratched that. We are just looking at cattle for now. So we have enough livestock, enough cows, enough dairy, enough goats, and enough cows to produce the milk we need in Nigeria.
Okay. So now, how would farmers key into this policy?
As you know, we are just formulating this policy. We will, after this stakeholders engagement, go back and go to the state level and also engage. Finally, when we have a policy, we will also communicate this. And everyone can key in from various levels. We have the clusters at the farmers level, we have the off-takers at the processor level, and then we have the consumers. All of us will benefit from the national dairy policy.
All right. Mrs. Winnie Shulayan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. The federal government says it will continue to assist young entrepreneurs to thrive in their various fields to generate employment opportunities. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo made the promise after a short while ago in Gombe. The Vice President said the youths as leaders of tomorrow will be greatly assisted by the present administration.
Support for Gombe State, we have ensured that at about 9,085 employees from close to 2,000 MSMEs in the educational sector have benefited from the scheme. Another 10,000 artisans and transporters in this state have also benefited from the scheme. Up to 6,000 new business names have been registered free of charge with the CAC from businesses that are in this state.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo also says it is time that greater attention be paid to the unity of the country by all Nigerians. The Vice President made the call during a courtesy visit to the palace of the Emir of Gombe, Abubakar Shehu Abubakar, accompanied by Governor Inuwa Yaya. Vice President Osinbajo, who is in Gombe State for the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Clinic Series, says the breakup of the country would do no one any good. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was presented with a White House as a mark of appreciation for the visit and the good governance the Buhari administration is committed to. Meanwhile, the Controller General of Nigeria Customs Service, Hamid Ali, says all Nigerians must cooperate with government to bring to an end the activities of smugglers in view of the implication to the economy and national security. He said this while interacting with the House Committee on Customs. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The Controller General of Nigeria Customs Service, Hamid Ali, expressed sadness that some residents of border communities take smuggling as a business and are ignorant of the law. All Nigerians of goodwill, he stressed, have a responsibility to put a stop to these acts of illegality by sharing information. He informed the committee that the service is working on a policy to further bring downwards the number of years for used vehicles for import into Nigeria, and that plans to improve services are on course with the purchase of scanners.
We are ready to do everything, Mr. Chairman, as customs do responsibility to ensure that we block the arms coming into this country. But I want to assure you that we will not alone be able to stop arms or total smuggling of arms into this country. We need the support of each and every one of us.
The committee insisted on increasing budget estimates of customs for the year 2021.
At committee level, we have approved the budget of Nigerian Custom 1.679 trillion for 2021.
In another development, House Committee on Tertiary Education and Services has held a public hearing on establishment bills for 12 federal institutions in parts of the country.
All with common objectives to develop an upper academic and professional programs with emphasis on technology, applied sciences, agriculture, commerce, art, social sciences, humanity.
From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
And Nigeria can now effectively fight human trafficking and other criminal tendencies in the country, especially as they affect the female gender. This was at the launch of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons Gender Policy Document and the Implementation Strategy in Abuja. Adebola Brooksland Sunday reports.
Investigations show that one of the major reasons human trafficking occurs in traditional Africa is due to gender discrimination, which Goal 5 of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations aimed at eliminating. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, is optimistic that the launch of the NAPTIP gender policy will address gender gaps and contribute to the realization of the central goals of the National Gender Policy.
The launch of NAPTIP's gender policy will complement the agency's operational strategies to curb gender-based violence and address gender gaps where they exist within the agency's internal operations.
We recognize that most trafficked persons have limited education or limited appreciation of the documents that are presented before them. Education is key.
The NAPTIP boss said the agency now has a renewed vision.
This would help us to look into with a closer lens to areas that we have not worked on, to promote a gender-sensitive environment that addresses forced migration and also trafficking. It will ensure gender-based victim support with proper documentation.
To make the policy an implementable document, we also have an implementation plan which has been developed and finalized together with the policy.
The forum agreed that gender equality is not only a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. Adebola Brooksland Sunday, NTA News.
And that report concludes the news at this hour on NTA International. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget the campaign against rape is still on. Stand against rape and rapists. Thanks for watching.